Wonderful. All right. So, this evening for our speaker, we have Jeff Messick. Jeff was hatched in November of 1961 and raised in Stanhope, New Jersey, on the banks of Lake Musconetcong. Did I say that right?
Lake Musconetcong.
Thank you, Jeff. Um, it was in, on, and along this lake where he developed his appreciation for wildlife. With plenty of help from his father and maternal grandfather, in 1982, Jeff received his Associate of Arts degree in Wildlife Fisheries from Garrett Community College in Western Maryland. Then, in 1985, his Bachelors of Science degree in Wildlife and Resources from West Virginia University. A college buddy got him interested in raptors, and from these encounters, he heard about what was then the Raptor Rehabilitation and Propagation Project in Missouri, which is now World Bird Sanctuary. From Jeff's humble beginnings as a non-paid intern at RRPP, he gained knowledge in rehabilitating injured birds of prey, training and presenting live birds in education, programs participating in wild bird studies, banding and placing transmitters on birds, and many other facets of World Bird Sanctuary. He is currently Deputy Director for World Bird Sanctuary. Jeff's greatest joys in life are his children and wife, fishing and hunting, banding wild peregrine falcon chicks, and knowing his life work helps save the world's birds. Thank you so much, Jeff, for being here with us this evening. We are so excited to hear just the wealth of knowledge that you have. So please begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much for the great introduction, Tessa. Tessa says that she loves her job, and I love Tessa because she's going to help me through my first ever Zoom presentation. So I hope I pass the audition. Um, I got interested in the effects of lead on especially birds and birds of prey. Oh, it probably happened about 15 years ago. I am an avid pursuer of the white-tailed deer. I like to hunt, and about 12 years ago is when I started using copper bullets because I found out about how bad lead can be for any of the birds and even mammals, for that matter, that feed on what's left after you've disemboweled your prey or your deer and those things that feed on it, and how much lead gets into their bodies because of what happens to the bullet as it passes through the body. So I've got some goals of this presentation. I have modified this, of course, so that there's going to be a little bit less about the hunting aspect of this, of how lead gets into the environment, and especially what we can do. But I've modified it somewhat so that hopefully it fits everyone's interests here. And as what my title says, we can change minds, even our own, if it happens to be that way, on the effects of lead and what we can do to help birds, and stay away from this terrible toxic substance. So the goals of this presentation give us ammunition, pun not intended, to explain and or argue the scientifically researched and proven facts about the toxicity of lead. Uh, Also, what we can do as individuals to change minds. I'm going to teach you how exactly lead enters um, the bodies of and affects birds. As I've already mentioned, I will make references to hunting and the lead still used in upland and big game ammunition. A lead bullet is fragmenting as it passes through the body, then is eaten by scavengers. Lead pellets that don't hit their target can also be consumed by animals in their habitat. While we can all make a difference in ways I will discuss, having lead banned in all ammo in Missouri will be a huge start to saving wildlife from lead toxicity. Education is the key to changing minds. And it doesn't matter if you're in front of 40,000 people at a Cardinals game or one-on-one with uh, with a small audience. Uh, the most important thing, I'll tell you right now, there are people that just won't believe the effects of lead on birds and other animals, even though you present them with scientifically proven facts about it. But you still must be patient when you're talking with people like this. Allow those you are speaking with to give their point of view. Be professional in all aspects, yet persistent. While you may not convince someone who adamantly won't read or believe all the scientifically proven evidence, there will be others listening on the fringe that you may be convincing. Never lose your temper. Nothing is gained, and in fact, much can be lost if tempers flare. Um, a little about lead research. Lead was taken out of paint in the late 60s because of its effects on young children. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, lead is toxic to all life as we know it. There's a little bit of information on my screen there. Um, I did plenty of research, of course, as I was developing this paper, and I thought it interesting that second point there in the slide. One of the first research papers ever done on the effects of lead on wildlife was done on ringneck pheasants by H.S. Calvert in 1876. So we've known for literally a couple of 100 years now, or over 100 years anyway, about how bad lead is for not only humans but animals too. Um, I had some personal communications with Dr. John Schultz. Um, um, I've got some. I go too far. Sorry if I went too far. No, I didn't. I'm on that right slide. I've got there's some big words in there. I just wanted to go over a couple of them in that slide that you're looking at now. Hematopoietic blood, which is blood cell formation. Histopathological, pertaining to disease. Teratological is a big word for defects, usually pertaining to birth defects. And again, this all pertains to the slide that you're looking at right now. Some of those big words, I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands them. Um, this is what happens to a bullet as it passes through a body cavity. Uh, you can see the uh, fiber tube was inserted through the hole that this bullet made in this deer carcass, and and you can see the concentration of fragments near the exit wound. But however, you can see that they're already starting to spread out, and not only do they spread out, within several inches of the bullet path as it passes through the body, they can go even that far away from the path of the bullet through an animal's body. So when you it's just, again, it's just what happens when you shoot a bird, or excuse me, shoot an animal with a bullet that has lead in it. That's how far the fragments can spread. So gut piles and river cages with lead fragments are fed on by not just vultures, and these are turkey vultures, and we also have the black vulture in these parts in Missouri, becoming more and more common and spreading north very quickly because of the warming of our planet. But it also can affect lots of different kinds of birds. Bald eagles are notorious scavengers when the chips are down. In other words, when it's cold and they're having a hard time finding other prey. They do feed a lot on fish, but when the river freezes during very cold times, bald eagles will have no problem whatsoever feeding on carcasses, and even red-tailed hawks, as you can see here. This picture was taken with a game cam in southern Missouri at a friend of mine's farm. This red-tailed hawk, as you might imagine, is about to have a much more acute problem than potential lead poisoning. But again, uh, lots of different birds feed on lead, and even the nighttime raptors will feed on lead. This is a great horned owl. It's a little bit washed out, but you can see if you can see my cursor, these are the feather tufts that are semi-mistakenly called horns for the great horned owl, and it is feeding on a carcass that's along a road. Lots of different kinds of birds feed on the carcasses, including the songbirds. Any bird that will come to a suet feeder will also feed on a gut pile carcass. Crows, ravens, magpies, all the woodpecker species in North America, chickadees, titmice, Carolina wrens, just to name a few. So again, it's not just the raptors that can be hurt by the lead in these carcasses. Um, the lead that misses its target will be ingested when game birds forage for seeds or pick gravel to aid in digestion. Um, so um, for many decades, tons and tons and tons of lead shot was shot into the marshes and stuff that are in these big waterfowl hunting organizations on the Mississippi and all the other big rivers, not just here in the Midwest, but all around the country. And so those lucky for the birds, lucky for us, as these marshes mature, the lead gets buried more and more, so that when the dabblers, as you're seeing here, are feeding on the bottom, they're after lead is banned, and I'll go over that here in a second. Then they're feeding on what they should be feeding on rather than ingesting the lead. Um, Cripple game is also eaten by predatory birds and is eaten at a higher rate because it's more easily caught than healthy game. And I'm talking mostly ducks here that are shot with lead pellets, but it could be geese and other types of birds. But lucky for the birds, in 1991, lead shot for hunting waterfowl was banned in the United States. Um, so just a little bit of information about the big change from lead to to shot when shooting at the ducks. Crippling and not getting rates went up about 4% over the next several years. Again, when lead was banned, then it went back to about 20%, which is where it was before the ban on lead, because hunters got used to the difference between steel shot and lead shot. Over the last few years, the cripple rate has gone below 20%, reason being other lead alternative shot has a heavier atomic weight than steel, and decoys have also gotten better. I'll go over in a little bit. I'll go over the other no lead alternatives besides copper and steel. I'm going to read it off the slide here. Personal communication with Dr. Mark Pokris from Tufts University in Massachusetts. Dr. Mark explains that lead outcompetes calcium when red blood cells are absorbing nutrients at the wall of the small intestine. This outcompeting can be likened to carbon monoxide poisoning, where the red blood cells should be taking oxygen from the alveoli in our lungs to distribute to the body. Red blood cells will absorb carbon monoxide much faster than oxygen, essentially outcompeting oxygen. So again, that's just how I'm trying to liken how the lead is absorbed much more quickly by the red blood cells at the small intestine, much more quickly than that next bullet point. Calcium is an extremely important element with all the body systems, especially in birds. When calcium is replaced with toxic lead, bad things happen. So here's a few statistics on the amount of lead it takes to kill a bald eagle. So as you can see, it's a minuscule amount, really. So you can see all the bullet points there. I'll still go over them. It's about 28 and a half grams in every ounce. A 150 grain bullet contains 9,710 milligrams, or enough lead to kill 118 bald eagles. Um, so go over a little bit about the shot size called six, number six sled shot, a common load for hunting pheasants, upland game, and ducks. A standard 1 3/8 ounce load in a 12 gauge shotgun contains about 100 shot pellets, like 100 size 6 pellets in that size 12 gauge shotgun um, cartridge. So you can see the rest of the statistics there. So it boils down to 2 pellets of number six shot contain enough lead to kill a single bald eagle, and I'll show you how much that is. Um, those lead pellets there are size 6 lead shot, and you can see probably 15 to 20 of those could fit on the top of that dime. So it's a minuscule amount. It's a very, very toxic substance to all birds. Here's clinical signs of lead toxicity in birds. Um, we unfortunately get to see this here at World Bird Sanctuary where I work. Um, a big part of what we do here at World Bird to conserve birds is we rehabilitate injured birds of prey. And when we see these signs that you're seeing here, the incoordination, weakness, drooping wings, reduced activity, we will give the bird that is showing those a blood test. And the blood tests for lead, unfortunately, are pretty expensive. So we have to see the signs before we actually do the test. Um, so going with especially the reduced activity there, especially duck and deer hunters are more apt to see a raptor that stays in one spot all day and maybe for days. Usually, this means the incoordination and weakness has taken over. The bird doesn't want to move. When hunger forces the bird to move, the bird flutters to the ground. And the following is what happens with acute lead toxicity. I have a video I want to show everyone, and hopefully it's going to play for me. Might take it a second to start going. I have a good friend in Estonia. He's a vet there. Estonia is a northern European country along the Baltic Sea. And this white-tailed eagle, he filmed this white-tailed eagle that had come in with acute lead toxicity. Unfortunately, this bird died just a few minutes after this video was taken. You can see that the bird is gasping for breath, and I'll explain that. So, one of the terrible things that acute lead toxicity does to birds of prey and all birds is that it attacks the central nervous system. So the diaphragm, which is controlled by the central nervous system, starts to shut down. And so that's why we're seeing this bird struggling to take a breath. Again, this is a white-tailed eagle, very closely related in the same genus, in fact, as as our bald eagle. So, tell you a little story here. I was traveling through Columbia, Missouri. This was back in early November, and I was traveling through Columbia late at night, and I was listening to the local classic rock station, and I heard a commercial on the radio, and it was all about the terrible effects of lead on humans. And there was even a website to go to learn more about how lead is bad for humans and especially bad for children. And so I've got the directions here on how to get to where I found this information on lead. But again, I heard not just one commercial as I passed through Columbia, but I heard two commercials about it. Again, it was being played late at night, but still, it was actually very refreshing to hear that Missouri is concerned at least about how lead affects humans. So there are the directions, and I believe that Tessa is going to put these directions on how to get to the website that you can find out about lead and see actually listen to these commercials that I was talking about, so that everybody can screenshot those directions, and go and see for yourself that how concerned Missouri is for the effects of lead and its toxicity on especially children. So Missouri is the number one lead producing state in all of the United States. And uh, so Missouri.gov, our government here in Missouri, they do have this stuff on, but it is pretty hard to find. So still, if you're persistent, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, you can find this stuff. And again, it just goes to show you that Missouri is concerned about it, but more for humans, which is cool. That's fine and great. But so now it's up to us to try and convince our representatives that yes, it's bad for humans. We know that. We have a ton of information, literally a ton of information on why lead is bad for birds and other wildlife too. So after you go through the direction that I just had up on there, you will come to this screen. Again, you have to just move around a little bit, use your cursor to move around and look around. But again, you'll come to this screen and you'll see what I'm talking about, and you'll see that Missouri actually is concerned for its citizens on lead. Suddenly, I can't I okay. Okay, I just had and then again, just moving your cursor around and pressing different buttons will get you to another screen, the one that I have up there again that I found. Just moving around the Missouri.gov website and following those directions. So up until not too long ago, I had no idea how to get. I had no idea who the legislators that govern the part of the state that I live in. I had no idea who they were. So again, I went back to Missouri.gov and then followed these directions. And again, Tessa's going to have these up in the chat box so that you can all see these and take a screenshot and go to these yourself. But it's pretty simple to find out the representative that that you can talk to and talk to them about your concerns about the effects of lead on not just humans but all wildlife. Again, trying to build up here to ban the use of lead in Missouri. It would be so cool if before I died that Missouri would ban lead bullets because of its terrible effects on all wildlife, let alone humans. There's only one state in the union right now that bans lead bullets, and that's California. And that's all because of the scientific proof that lead was killing the California condor. Just a quick story about the California condor. It was brought to near extinction. Literally, there were 27 individuals left in the world, some of them still in the wild. And then when they finally, well, they actually took them out of the wild because they didn't know back in the late 70s, early 80s, what was killing the California condor. So they took them all out of the wild. They captured them from the wild, and they started a breeding program in a couple of different places in California. And through the breeding program and the research that they did with the condors that they took out of the wild, they found that it was lead that was killing the condors. And again, they were getting that lead from feeding on gut piles from what hunters left behind after they killed like a white-tailed deer. And so they started breeding the California condor in captivity. And now I believe there's at least 600 California condors uh, in the wild. So they again they banned lead in California, which is where they're releasing most of the California condors. And now there are about 600 condors in the wild, and there's probably about twice that number in captivity. They still keep a good number in captivity and breed them in captivity so that they can release their youngsters to the wild. So it's a pretty big success story, not just for California, but for the West Coast to bring the California condor back. And there are a couple of counties in Arizona that have released California condors, young California condors that have also banned lead. But California, again, is the only state that has banned lead. And it would be so cool if maybe one day Missouri would do the same. So, again, just referring back to hunting a little bit here, um, I've heard so many excuses from hunters on why they don't want to use a no lead alternative. And one of them, at least, used to be that, well, there's just no companies that sell no lead or copper or lead alternative bullets. And well, that's not true anymore. As you can see, all of these 16 organizations, and there's plenty more out there that make ammunition, uh, are are selling no or full copper bullets or lead alternative bullets. And I said earlier that I would bring up uh, the other shot uh, types of shot that you can use in a shotgun that are no lead. And there's both of them right there. Heavy shot is a tungsten iron nickel combination that's non-toxic to birds. And then there's also TSS, tungsten super shot, and that's made purely of tungsten. Um, that I bought myself for back in before Christmas last year, and I can tell you the truth, that's pretty expensive stuff. And again, that's another excuse that I've heard that these uh, no lead this no lead ammunition is expensive, but um, continually ammunition goes up and up and up. The price for ammunition just continues to soar. Yet the organizations that actually sell uh, the bullets to hunters, they can't keep it on their shelves because it is bought up so quickly. So yes, these lead alternatives do cost a little bit more, but my gosh, people are spending so much money anyway. A few more dollars for a no lead bullet to hunt the white-tailed deer, for example, is well within the means of most people that are buying ammunition for hunting. I'll hang out here on the literature cited here for a minute so people can see where I have gotten all of the information for my presentation. Tessa, I'm basically done with the presentation. And if you want to go to the chat box, if there's questions, I would love to answer them. Again,
Yeah.
I'll hang out on the literature cited here for a moment, and I think I've got one more page before I go to the final slide, but I can start answering questions.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah. We've got some really great questions in the Q&A, and most of them there's a couple that you touched on some of the answer of it, but I think that hearing your thoughts on them will be great.
Sure.
So, the first question is when you talked about lead getting buried out of feeding range for waterfowl and wetlands, wondered about lead leaching into the soil, water, etc. Even if it isn't consumed directly. Is that a concern, or does it not leach in that way?
So the question basically is if it leaches, the lead leaches into the water.
Soil, water, yeah, like into
Yeah,
other parts of the ecosystem. And then,
that's a good question, and I don't want to assume that it does. I can say I'm not sure on that one, but I can try and find that information. Is my email address? I don't even know if I put my email address up anywhere, but I would be happy if you wanted to share my email address with the audience so that they can send these questions to me directly, especially the ones that I may not be able to answer, and
yeah,
I'll look that information up.
you got it. I will drop Jeff's email in the chat here shortly. Okay. Our next question, which you definitely did touch on, but we have a little bit more specifics, so we'll see if you can shed some light on it. So I wondered why don't all hunters switch to steel and copper? Is it the shot weight mass? Is the
Yes.
penetration the same, or do we think it's just like the cost comparison?
Yeah, I mentioned just a little bit about the atomic weight of um, of steel as compared to lead, as compared to these other no lead alternatives. So lead has a high atomic weight. So lead, there's lots of people that don't like to use no lead alternatives because the impact when the shot hits the target is uh, devastating enough where the the pellet, the lead pellet, usually will go through all the way through, or at least into the quarry, which helps kill it more quickly. But again, steel shot um, certainly penetrates, may not reach out there as far as lead pellets, but again, hunters at first they had to get used to the ban on lead, which happened again back in 1991. They had to get used to the 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 differences between lead and steel, but they certainly did. And then suddenly the cripple rates went down, and they got used to it. And in fact, even now, again, because of the decoys that I talked about, there's really great decoys out there now that draw ducks in more quickly, more easily than the older decoys. Um, Hunters are being even more successful using steel shot. And the other shots that I mentioned, TSS and heavy shot, they both have higher atomic weights than steel. So they again are good lead alternatives that kill prey, and your shot might reach out there a little bit further than steel shot.
Very good. Okay. Is ammunition the primary source of lead poisoning in raptors, or are there other sources to be concerned about?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have not. I kept referring back to hunting because I really don't know. Besides the lead mines themselves, I really don't know of any other way lead gets into the environment than the bullets that I speak of. Um, uh, to put it in perspective, let's see. There were 136,000 deer killed in Missouri during the modern firearm seasons, and then a few more thousand over that with by bow hunters. So it's it's not a small problem. I mean, 136,000 deer. If again, most hunters they leave their gut piles just in the woods because they are biodegradable and they get consumed by other wildlife. So it's a common practice. to leave your gut pile in the woods. But again, if you're using a full copper bullet, there is absolutely no worry of any kind of toxicity getting into the animals and birds that are going to be feeding on those gut piles.
Okay, this is a perfect question because this is great into speaking to your experience at your job now. Can lead toxicity be reversed?
Yes, it can. As long as we receive the bird um, quickly, um, the more acute the lead toxicity, the quicker the symptoms start to show. Um, and there are chemicals that can be injected into the birds to help uh, rid the blood system of lead. And the less lead there is, uh, the better these chemicals work to reverse the lead toxicity. But it does do permanent damage. So again, getting that patient in as quickly as possible and trying to reverse it as quickly as possible is going to give the patient a better chance of surviving the lead toxicity.
That's great. Will you put up the previous two slides of your literature cited as
But
well?
of course,
Yeah, someone
okay,
is
I'll go back to that one and I'll hang out on that one for a while if there's any other questions.
yes. Um, is deer meat donated to food pantries by hunters checked for lead?
That is a very good question, and it is not.
Mm.
Uh, yes, there is definitely. Uh, it's literally beyond a shadow of a doubt. I'm not. I don't like to use the word definitely, but beyond a shadow of a doubt, there is lead that gets into what is donated to food pantries and the needy, just because there's not that many hunters. It's growing. There are more hunters. I've convinced most of my friends to use copper bullets. And again, anybody who's watching this presentation tonight, if they know a hunter and can try to convince them how bad lead is for all of the environment, all of the animals in basically all vertebrates, it's just so bad for them. If you can convince a hunter to start using a no lead alternative, that is just going to be all the better for wildlife.
Um, okay, is there any pending legislation to restrict lead?
No, there is no pending registration legislation to restrict lead. Again, finding out who your representatives, your state House of Representative is, and your state um, senator is, and just writing them letters. So I found out who mine were. I live in Pacific, Missouri, and I found out who mine were. One of I believe it was the senator, on the website, on the screen that I found my um, senator on, you could write to him right on that screen. And then with the House of Representative that that has jurisdiction over my area, um, his um, email address was right there, and I clicked on his email address, and I was able to write him too. So it's very simple, folks. You go to Missouri.gov, and again, follow those directions that I brought up there. Um, it's surprising how easy it is to talk with your legislators and start to voice your opinion on this subject.
Absolutely. Any thoughts as to why legislation has not passed thus far?
That's a tough one. Again, Missouri is the number one lead producing state in all of the United States, and I'm sure there are legislators that may have a hard time trying to do that because of the money that lead brings to the state in so many different ways. So Uh, yeah, that's a tough question.
Okay,
But
cool.
again, if everything is working as it should, as far as legislators listening to their constituents, um, writing to them, voicing your opinion on, and again, going back to what I said early in this presentation, there is just so many papers that have been done on the toxicity of lead. It's over and over and over and over and over again proven scientifically that lead is bad for wildlife, even humans. Again, it's bad for humans too. So any way that we can take it from the environment, any way we can get it out of the environment is just going to be good for everything.
Absolutely, yeah. Somebody also put into the Q&A that um, we do know that lead leaches into the water, which is why we're working towards eliminating lead pipes for water supply, which is,
Okay, there you go. That's I'm glad somebody brought that up. Thank you very much. That's a great point.
yeah, I agree. Okay, so you mentioned quite a few papers that have been done and studies that have come out. What about on upland birds specifically, effects of lead?
So um, I'll I mentioned upland game birds. I think I had the slide of bobwhite quail, but all birds ingest um, small pebbles, rocks into their systems. They swallow those, and it aids in the digestion of everything that they eat. So, to take for example, say a public hunting area that has been hunted over for pheasant, bobwhite quail, small game for decades and decades. How many hunters have shot at? Okay, they hit their prey, but a 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch shell has, I think I said, 110 size 6 pellets in it. So size 6, if it was size 7, there would be more pellets. They're smaller. Size 5, there would be less pellets because as you go down in the number for shot size, the bigger the shot gets. But there's 110 pellets of size 6 shot in a 2 3/4 inch shell. So how many hunters have shot, whether they hit their quarry or not? They might hit it with a few pellets and get their quarry, but what happens to the other 90 or 80 pellets? It goes onto the ground, and so many different kinds of birds forage on the ground, not only for their food, but also for these pebbles that I spoke of to help aid in their digestion. So birds will ingest these lead pellets um, even in upland situations.
Okay, so another one along the lines of data, and I think this one's more for Missouri specific, but so do we have the data to support the movement like California did with the condor? Are the numbers there and legislators just don't know about it?
Um, the California condor, I don't know all of the ins and outs on how it was proposed to the legislature uh, to ban lead bullets in California, but it was proven beyond a shadow that the lead from these gut piles was killing the California condors. Um, they're a bald eagles are so well known, and bald eagles were endangered for a long time because of the pesticide called DDT. Uh, and once we found out it wasn't just the bald eagle, there were so many other birds, water related. Their habitat includes water, their food source includes water. So many other birds that were affected by DDT. It was banned from use in all of the United States back in 1972, and bald eagle was taken off the endangered species list in 2007. So, um, again, science, scientific literature, scientists, they can only take this so far. I believe it still has to come down to you and me to convince our legislators that it is going to be by far and away the best for all of us. all of us wildlife
Yeah.
that we ban lead from ammunition here in Missouri.
Um, so how many birds or what percentage of birds at World Bird Sanctuary have suspected or confirmed lead poisoning?
That's a good question. Again, if you wanted to write to me on, I can find that information out. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can find that information out from our rehabbers. Here at World Bird Sanctuary, we just rehab injured birds of prey, and last year I believe we were up at about 775 birds taken in. And it would be easy for me to find that out. I just don't have it off the top of my head. But yes, please write to me on my email address, uh, and I can get that information for you.
Wonderful. And I put Jeff's email in the chat and I'll drop it in there again here shortly, just so in case anybody loses it. I think this is a great question. What government agency is responsible for monitoring or enforcing the use of lead? And do you think that we are in a good position for this currently?
Hmm. What government agency monitors the use of lead? I don't know if there is one. I'm not sure if there is a government agency. If there's a government agency that is similar to the environmental protection, that is the National Environmental Protection Agency, then that would probably be the organization that is monitoring lead use and lead pipes. And the what came to national light there, I believe, was in Michigan, Flint, Michigan, there several years back that the lead pipes and the problems the lead was causing leaching into the water supply for just coming into people's houses. Um, I've never heard of any problems like that in Missouri, but I believe any of the older houses that were built back um, in the early 1900s, mid 1900s even, probably have lead pipe or could better chance that they have lead pipe, and so we may have the problem here too but it just hasn't come to light like it did there in Flint.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're definitely right along the lines in terms of like Environmental Protection Agency. I know they're do a lot in terms of like lead poisoning and as it relates to humans. So it would be great to see them, advocate.
Here at World Bird Sanctuary, I'm the guy that's in charge of our public drinking water, and we I send monthly bacterial samples into the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. So that might be a good website to go to, the Department of Natural Resources,
Yeah,
DNR.
absolutely. Okay, I'm trying to keep up with these questions. They are great questions. You mentioned that it was just a couple dollars in terms of cost difference between lead and no lead ammunition. Do you know specifically or just a few?
Um, I'll still stick to my guns and say a few dollars more than, but again, it depends on. So I kind of mixed big game ammunition with small game ammunition there, so I may have been a little bit confusing as I what I was talking about there. So again, I mentioned that I'm an avid hunter of the white-tailed deer, and I switched to no lead 12 years ago, and again, I'm using a full copper bullet now, and you can buy full copper bullets in most calibers over the counter um, at most stores that sell ammunition. Um, and you can, I went to a Bass Pro Shops here in West St. Louis County back before Christmas, and I bought my son um, um, the tungsten shot, which I believe is called heavy shot. And that was considerably more expensive than they were still selling lead. Of course, lead is again, it's you can find it anytime, any place, anywhere. especially with any of the ammunitions that I'm mentioning. So it was right alongside lead and steel shot. My son is a hunter of game birds out in the western United States, and I bought him a box of this tungsten, this heavy shot, and it was probably two-thirds more expensive than a box of uh, lead or steel shot of the same size. The TSS, the tungsten, there was a tungsten, it was tungsten, nickel, and tin. I think that's what it was. The combination that was less expensive, but I couldn't find that quite as easily um, for the shotgun shells. But again, going back to the big game ammunition for the rifles, you can find copper, full copper bullets uh, in any ammunition store that you go into should have it. And if it's not there, you can order it online from any of those ammunition makers that I uh, brought up earlier. I can okay, there it is, right there. Those ammunition makers. You can go to their websites and order full copper bullets. And there are bullets. I find my son uses the caliber 30-06 for deer hunting that he's done here in Missouri, and I found him a lead alternative 180 grain bullet. That's just the weight of the bullet itself, not the whole cartridge, but the bullet itself. I found them at a I'm not going to be able to remember the name of it now, but a small organization that sells ammunition here, and they were made in France. So again, it's go to any of these places that I have up on the screen here, folks, if you're looking for no lead ammunition, and you can find it there on their websites.
Um, okay. There are a
Oh,
lot.
there it is. Tungsten iron nickel is the combination of for the heavy shot. Okay, so I was wrong. Heavy shot is the tungsten iron nickel combination shot for shotgun shells, and TSS is the full um, tungsten super shot. The TSS is the other one.
Okay, I think that this is a good question. What
Okay.
about shooting ranges? Okay to use lead there, or does that go astray as well?
Yes, that is a very good question. You can go to a Missouri Department of Conservation managed um, target practice range and shoot all of the lead. Like if you have lead that you want to get rid of, you can shoot it target practice at a range that the MDC manages. And every so often, they go through and they collect all of the lead that's in the soil and they dispose of it properly. And when I say properly, I spoke with a woman that at an organization that makes large machinery for earth moving and cranes, especially cranes. So, as you may imagine, cranes have to be really, really heavy to take the big loads that they're lifting, sometimes hundreds of feet off the ground. So, proper lead disposal is melting it down again, making big blocks of it, and then they encase the lead in steel. And that is the counterbalance that these big cranes use for lifting their large loads. So yes, very good question. You can shoot lead at a Missouri Department of Conservation managed practice range, and there's one right here at the Beaumont Antire Road exit. If anybody is watching and is familiar with the St. Louis area, Beaumont Antire Road exit is off of Interstate 44. It's only about 20 miles west of downtown St. Louis.
Great. Um,
One of many.
okay, and I believe that you answered this question, but just to reiterate,
Sure,
are
not a problem.
are there possible adverse effects to birds in the environment from using copper or the other alternative bullet options?
No, copper is non-toxic to birds. It's non-toxic to humans.
Um, Somebody mentioned that they expressed their condolences for the recent loss of Murphy.
Murphy, thank you. Thank you very much for that. We all miss him already.
Okay, what is lead being used for currently that we are needing to produce so much?
Well, aside from ammunition, uh, that's that's a good question. I'm 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 not really sure what other uses there are of lead where we are still mining it so much. That's a good question. But again, I can look that up too.
Wonderful. I'm gonna drop Jeff's email one more time in the chat, and then there is another here's a link someone shared in the Q&A for ways DNR is monitoring lead. And then just to follow up on the what is being produced with lead, another question was, is there any information on banning lead fishing weights?
Oh, that's another source of lead, and as far as I know, there are none that, but that's been spoken about too. The banning of weights for lead weights that are used for fishing, and there's already, I'm positive about this, there are already lead alternative sinkers that you can buy in most fishing stores.
Yeah. Um, Alrighty. Well, we are at 7:31, so I will drop Jeff's email one last time in the chat. So for any of those who didn't quite get their questions answered tonight or think of more, um, definitely reach out to Jeff.
Okay, just a little bit about that last picture everybody's looking at there. This was taken from our webcam, our live webcam last. Oh, it was probably early June. These peregrine falcon chicks are just about to fledge or leave the nest box. You can see that they're all banded. I put those bands on, I believe it was sometime in the middle of May when they were about 20 days old. They're all about 40, between 40 and 42 or 43 days old right here. And we will have that website up again as long as the peregrines nest. And the last I checked, in fact, they might even have an egg now. And once they have an egg, we'll go live. And you can find our website on worldbirdsanctuary.org. You can go to Amarin.com to find the live camera feed, and also Missouri Department of Conservation.
That's right. I believe the peregrine falcon, one of the peregrine falcon boxes in the Kansas City area, they are already sitting on eggs. So
There you go. And just one more quick thing, the female, and you can see here at the top of the screen there, that female was hatched in 2017 on a building in Kansas City. And
amazing.
she showed up last year in late February, early March here at Labadie Power Plant, which is on the Missouri River here close to St. Louis, as the breeding female, and she is going to be there again this year too. I've already seen her band.
Wow. That's amazing. I might have to send you an email about that one.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm so happy to be able to talk with you tonight.
Jeff, thank you so, so much. That was such an important presentation, such an important topic. Some really, really great questions from our attendees. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you a million, Jeff. And thank you all for letting me host the winter webinar this evening. It was such a joy. I hope everyone has a great evening, and a good week.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.